All of us at some point will paint something that we think is crap. So this week, let's polish a turd and make this Gryph Hound hot as shit. We're going to need a bit of help on this one, so we're going to jump over to Patreon, to Christian's Painting Studio. Christian is a fantastic painter, offering a huge amount of tutorials over on Patreon. He covers all sorts over there, and is always open to suggestions on what to do next. Don't worry, I made sure to ask his permission before I did this. Don't want to be stepping on anyone's toes, do we? But what we need from his page is his free tutorial on lava swords. It's a PDF guide, and yes, it's made for swords, but who says we can't make that work for us and do whatever the hell we want? We'll go a little bit off book though, because what's the point in rules if we don't break them? First up, we'll prime with some Vallejo grey primer and get a coat of Khorne Red on the body through the airbrush. With the airbrush base coat set up, we needed to lay out our rock formations with some Abaddon black, making sure to try our hardest to keep these random. Now that we've got our rocks and lava laid out, we can come in with some Evil Sun Scarlet and trace the lines of the lava, keeping a small slither of Khorne Red showing at the edge. Because the Khorne Red and Abaddon Black are quite glossy paints, I had to hit these with some matte varnish to help me see what I was doing, and this is where we are with the first few layers. Now we can bring in a 50-50 mix of Evil Sun Scarlet and Fire Dragon Bright to ease the transition between the layers. Need to keep the lines thin so we can still see the outer edges of the last layer we did. With the other layers dry, we can jump in with our next layer, which is Fire Dragon Bright, again getting thinner each time so a little bit of the previous layer still shows at the edges. It's really starting to take shape by this point. Now this is where we can go a little bit off book and bring things up a bit brighter by bringing in some Troll Slayer Orange in as thin a line as possible to give it a good feeling of heat, or as good as I can get it anyway. Once that's done, we can add in some Flash Gitz Yellow into the little junction points where things might be at their hottest. Now it's starting to look really nice, but we do need to define those rocks a bit. To sexy up the rocks, we need to make a 50-50 mix of Abaddon Black and Eshin Grey. We need to almost completely cover the black, but leave a little bit around the edge for a bit of definition and a slight 3D effect. Once we have the rocks down, we need to pick out a light source for highlighting. So I went with a basic top-down light, and now we can come in with some pure Eshin Grey to paint in some lines of highlight where the light would hit the rocks. It can help to take some photos around the mini to get a feel for where your highlights would be. So we'll try and keep the fire theme going all the way by painting his neck and tail feathers with Flash Gitz Yellow. Probably should have gone with a bigger brush, but sometimes brain not think too good. While we wait for that to dry, we'll fancy up his toenails with some layers of Fire Dragon Bright, followed by some Troll Slayer Orange. With his toes all fancy, we'll come back and stupidly try to highlight each individual feather on his neck, and then give up because it's taken forever and it looks like shit. So we'll just dry brush on some Troll Slayer Orange instead. Then we can follow that with some Evil Sun Scarlet. Now we can make the ends look a little smoky with a really light dry brush of black. With that done, we can paint his sweet mullet and neckbeard with some Khorne Red. And then give him a black beak, which will then get highlighted with some 50-50 black and Eshin Grey. Then a final highlight of pure Eshin Grey, same as our rocks. The tiny amount of leather can now get a coat of Rhinox hide. Before we go back and dry brush the mullet and neckbeard with some Evil Sun Scarlet. And then a light dry brush of Fire Dragon Bright on the highest edges. We can also go back and dry brush black on the neck feathers again, because it didn't look good the first time. And we can do this on the mullet too. A bit of Retributor armour on the metallics will sort them out easy enough and make our beastie look nice and real and expensive. Quick scrappy highlight of Xandri Dust will fix the leather. You might have noticed now that I do things in a stupid order, probably look into that. Then we can use our first wash of the project with some Reikland Flesh Shade over the metallics. And an edge highlight of silver will make it look like I know what I'm doing here. Let's just pretend you saw me add some yellow contrast to his face while I dot in these eyes. To get the all important contrast on the model, we can add some green static grass to the base. Tap off the excess. And boom. It's a bit of an improvement on the monstrosity that came before, right? Always feels good to rescue your own work from yourself. Far from perfect, but it's one of those models that I'm proud of, and had a crap load of fun working on it. If you like what you see here, subscribe so you don't miss out on anything that might be good in the future, and don't forget to jump to the links below to check out Christian's painting studio on Patreon and on Instagram. I'll catch you in the next one, guys.